Emily's father, James, faced an impossible choice when he handed his pregnant daughter over to a mysterious hermit, fearing the harsh judgment of their small Montana town. Noah, the solitary trapper, seemed like a cold outcast, but his quiet strength and compassion sparked outrage among the townsfolk who couldn't understand his role. Yet fate had its own plan, as Emily and Noah's bond grew into an unbreakable family, turning expectations upside down. But just wait until you hear how this story unfolds, and why justice and love finally won against all odds. James Morgan was a man shaped by the land he worked. In the quiet, rugged town of Clearwater, nestled deep in northern Montana, he had earned respect as a steadfast farmer, a man of integrity, resilience, and unwavering love for his family. His farm was more than just soil and crops. It was the legacy he intended to pass on to his only daughter, Emily. Emily was everything to James. From the moment she was born, she filled his life with light, gentle-hearted and sharp-minded, with a spirit as free as the Montana skies. Now, at just 22, she was carrying a new life within her, already 6 months into her pregnancy. It should have been a time of joy and anticipation, but instead, a heavy cloud loomed over their home. No one outside the family knew the truth about Emily's situation. The man she loved, her fiancé, had been taken from them months ago in a sudden car accident. The loss had shattered Emily, but she chose to keep the baby, a symbol of hope amid the grief. Yet in their small rural community, where gossip traveled faster than the wind, the consequences of bearing a child alone, without the father by her side, were severe. Families were judged harshly, and reputations carefully built over generations could be ruined overnight. James found himself trapped between two impossible choices. On one hand, he wanted to shield Emily from the sharp eyes and sharper tongues of the townsfolk. On the other, he feared that hiding her away or forcing her into silence might break the fragile trust between them. He knew the path ahead was treacherous, not just for Emily, but for the entire family. As days passed, worry gnawed at James's heart. In his desperation, a name came to mind: Noah Carter. Noah was a recluse who lived miles away from the town, deep in the wild forests bordering the mountains. The community whispered stories about him. A tough, solitary man who rarely welcomed visitors, known for his quiet strength and deep connection to the land. While many feared or misunderstood him, James had heard from a few that beneath his rugged exterior beat a kind and protective heart. The idea of handing Emily over to Noah seemed reckless, even reckless to James himself. But as the walls closed in and options ran thin, it was the only glimmer of hope he could grasp onto. Maybe, just maybe, Noah could offer the sanctuary and care that Emily so desperately needed, a place free from judgment where she could heal and prepare for the life growing inside her. With a heavy heart but unwavering resolve, James made a decision that would change all their lives forever. The night air was sharp and biting as James Morgan's truck rolled quietly through the winding dirt roads leading to the edge of the wilderness. Autumn's chill wrapped around them like a warning, matching the heavy weight in James's chest. Beside him, Emily sat silently, her hands folded tightly in her lap, trembling, not just from the cold, but from a confusion she couldn't put into words. For Emily, this night was like stepping into the unknown. She had trusted her father with everything, but now, at the most vulnerable moment of her life, she couldn't understand why he was handing her over to a man she barely knew. A hermit who lived far from anyone they called a neighbor. A stranger, yet somehow her last hope. When they reached Noah Carter's cabin, a modest, weather-worn structure nestled among towering pines, James's resolve wavered for a moment. He looked at his daughter's frightened face and silently promised himself that this was the right choice. Noah answered the door before James could knock. His presence was imposing, but not unkind. His eyes, steady and calm, held a quiet understanding. There was no judgment there, only the kind of raw, honest acceptance that Emily desperately needed. "Come in," Noah said softly, stepping aside. Inside, the cabin smelled of pine and wood smoke. Noah moved with practiced ease, fetching blankets and warm tea. He spoke little, but showed through his actions that he knew how to protect someone fragile in a harsh world. Emily felt a strange comfort settling in, a warmth beyond the fire's glow. Noah's care wasn't the kind she expected, but it was genuine, steady, and soon she realized that here, for the first time in months, she might find safety. Back in Clearwater, however, the news traveled fast. Whispers spread like wildfire. People noticed Emily's absence, the guarded looks on James's face, and rumors began to swirl. Some voices were filled with suspicion, others with pity. The town's harsh judgments threatened to close in even tighter on the Morgan family. James lay awake many nights, torn between relief and torment. He knew he had done what he believed was best, but the guilt gnawed at him. Had he betrayed his daughter by sending her away? Was this act of protection instead an abandonment? Yet deep inside, a flicker of hope remained. Hope that Noah's quiet strength could shield Emily and the baby growing inside her better than anyone else ever could. The months unfolded slowly, like the turning of seasons over the Montana wilderness. Emily's days began to carry a quiet rhythm in the remote cabin where she now lived with Noah Carter. What once felt like exile gradually transformed into sanctuary. Noah was more than just a rugged hermit. He became Emily's protector, her guide through uncertainty, and, most importantly, her friend. When fear and doubt threatened to overwhelm her, he was there, steady and patient. He taught her how to face the wild, not as a place of danger, but as a source of strength. The moment of childbirth arrived as both a challenge and a miracle. In the warm, flickering light of the cabin, Noah stood by Emily's side, offering support in ways that went beyond mere survival skills. His hands, roughened by years of hard labor, were gentle and sure. When the cries of new life filled the room, Emily felt a fierce gratitude swell inside her. Back in Clearwater, James Morgan wrestled with a storm of conflicting emotions. Each day he watched from afar, torn between relief that his daughter was safe and an aching guilt that he had sent her away. It was hard for him to accept that the warmth and care Emily found came not from family or familiar faces, but from a man the town regarded as an outcast. As the weeks passed, James began to see the truth he had missed before. Sometimes love takes unexpected forms. Noah's quiet strength, his steady presence in Emily's darkest hours, was exactly what she needed. Noah, too, began to open up. The loneliness he had carried for years was born from a personal tragedy, a loss that had driven him into isolation and left him wary of others. But with Emily and her newborn child, a new light entered his world. He found himself slowly healing, his heart thawing in the warmth of their fragile family. Their bond was more than survival, it was transformation. Together, they shaped a new kind of family, one built not on blood alone, but on compassion, trust, and the promise of new beginnings. The day finally arrived when Emily and Noah knew they could no longer hide in the shadows. With the baby cradled tenderly in Emily's arms, they made the quiet decision to step back into the world, not as outcasts, but as a family united by love and resilience. James Morgan arrived at the cabin with a mixture of emotions. His heart was heavy with the weight of guilt and uncertainty, but as he saw his daughter, calm and radiant, holding her newborn with a serene smile, something inside him began to shift. The fragile family before him was real, strong, and filled with a kind of peace he hadn't expected to find. Returning to Clearwater was not easy. The community had whispered harsh words, their judgment sharp and unforgiving. But as days turned into weeks, those whispers softened. People saw the care Noah gave Emily and the baby, his quiet dedication, the gentle way he held the child, and the unspoken bond they shared. Slowly, suspicion turned to understanding, and cold shoulders gave way to tentative acceptance. James, once consumed by fear of scandal and shame, finally recognized the truth his heart had resisted. Emily had found love, protection, and a home in a place he had never imagined. Noah was no longer just the hermit at the edge of town. He was family. The story of James, Emily, Noah, and the child became one of hope, a reminder that family is not always defined by tradition or expectation, but by the love and care we give and receive. In the end, acceptance blossomed where there was once fear, and new beginnings became possible for them all. In a small town in northern Montana, where judgment once threatened to tear a family apart, a different kind of family emerged. One built on trust, courage, and the simple but powerful truth that every person deserves to be valued and loved.